So here's what happened. And I know what you're thinking, but just listen. I'm Brielle. I'm 29. I was with Mason for 6 years, married for 2, and it was fine. You know, we had our routine. He worked, I worked, we came home, we watched the same shows, ate the same takeout. It wasn't fireworks, but it was comfortable, predictable. That was our thing. Then his mom, Yudaya, got sick. It was fast. The diagnosis was bad, and then she was gone, just like that. And Mason, he fell apart. It was like I was living with a ghost. He would just sit on the couch, staring at nothing. He'd come home from work, drop his bag by the door, and just stop. He wouldn't talk. He wouldn't eat. I'd make dinner, and he'd just pick at it. He'd cry at the most random things, like seeing a picture of her in the hallway or finding one of her old sweaters in a box. It was constant. I tried at first. I really did. I'd ask him how he was doing, or what he was thinking. He'd just say, fine, or nothing. I'd try to get him to go for a walk, or see his friends, but he couldn't. He was a shell, and after a few weeks of that, it got old, fast. I'm not built for that kind of emotional wreckage. I'm practical. You mourn, you process, and then you move on. You have to. Life doesn't stop. The bills don't stop. And Mason was acting like the world had ended. Every day was a funeral. Our apartment became a tomb. One night, I was trying to get him to talk to me. I was tired of being the only one holding things together. The emotional labor was killing me. I was cooking dinner, and he was just sitting there, staring at the television, which wasn't even on. The silence was deafening. I felt this rush of anger.
This frustration that had been building up for weeks.
Mason, can you just say something? I said. He just shook his head, like he was too tired to even speak. What's the point? Brielle, she's gone. And that was it. The dam broke. The point is that I'm still here. I snapped. The point is that we're still here. You're acting like the world is over. Your mom was a great woman. I know she was.
But this
is pathetic. This grief is making you weak. Mason. The words just came out. I didn't even think about it. I saw his shoulders tense, and he finally turned to look at me. But his eyes were empty. He didn't say a word. He just got up and went into the bedroom, closing the door behind him. I felt a little pang of something, but mostly, I just felt relief. The tension was finally out in the open. I could breathe again, even if it was a toxic kind of air. That was the turning point. Things never went back to normal after that. He started getting up earlier and leaving for work later. He'd come home and go straight to our home office, which he'd set up to work from. He was still quiet, but now there was a distance, a wall. He didn't look at me the same way. He didn't touch me. And I was free. I started going out with my friends more. They'd say, "Where's Mason?" And I'd just shrug. He's busy. The truth was, I wasn't busy with him anymore. I was busy with myself. I was happy to have the space. I started enjoying my own company. My life became my own again, and it felt good. This is where the story gets a little messy. I was on a work trip in Phoenix, and I met a guy, Noah. He was fun. He was spontaneous, and he didn't have any baggage. We went out for drinks, and one thing led to another. It was a stupid, selfish mistake. I know, but it wasn't about Noah. It was about feeling alive again. It was about being seen. Mason didn't see me anymore. He was too consumed by his own sadness. When I got back from the trip, I felt a little guilty, but not enough to change anything. I didn't tell Mason. What was the point? It was a one-time thing. It didn't mean anything. The real drama started a couple of weeks later. Mason was still in his own world, but he was starting to do things up. He started going to some sort of support group. He didn't tell me about it, but I saw the pamphlet on the kitchen counter one day. It was for a grief and loss group at some local church. It even had a little prayer on the front. I rolled my eyes. Mason wasn't even religious. This was just weird. Then one night, I was on his computer, looking for something to watch, and I saw a new desktop folder, group notes. It was called, I know I shouldn't have looked, but I did. I opened it, and it was filled with little text files. Session 1, Session 2, and so on. They were notes from his group meetings. But they weren't just about his mom. They were about him. And about me. He had written about how he felt like he was drowning. and how my grief is a sign of weakness comment had been like a punch to the gut. He wrote about feeling abandoned. He wrote about how he felt like he was a burden. But then there were other notes about a woman in the group. Her name was Grace. He wrote about how she had lost her father last year and how she just got it. He wrote about how she had prayed with him after one of the sessions and how it had felt like a weight had been lifted. He wrote about her smile. He wrote about how she was helping him find himself again. I felt this cold, hard knot of something in my stomach. It wasn't jealousy. It was something else. Like someone had stolen my story. Like this was supposed to be my thing. Helping him. But I didn't have the emotional capacity. And now some woman, some Grace, was doing it for him. The feeling was a mix of anger and resentment. Who was she to come into my life and fix my husband? That night, I confronted him. I didn't mention the notes. I just said, "So, this group you're going to, who's in it?" He was surprised. He didn't even know I knew about it. "It's just a group," he said, his voice quiet. "People who have lost family." "Is there a woman in it named Grace?" I asked, watching his face. His expression didn't change, but his eyes, they went distant. "Yeah, she's nice. She lost her dad." And that was it for me. I felt this rage, this fire in my gut. He was telling me she was nice. He was telling me she was nice. Like that was supposed to make me feel better. I went ballistic. I accused him of having an affair, of moving on too fast, of not even bothering to tell me about this woman. I said he was a hypocrite, that he was so weak he had to find another woman to hold his hand. He didn't yell. He didn't even raise his voice. He just looked at me with this profound sadness. "You don't understand. Brielle," he said. "You didn't want to hold my hand. You didn't want to be there for me. You told me my grief made me weak." And he was right. I had said that, but he was supposed to forgive me. He was supposed to understand that I was just frustrated. He was supposed to come back to me, to our comfortable life, not some new woman who prayed with him. The next morning, I woke up, and he was gone. But not like, gone to work. Gone. His side of the closet was empty. His toothbrush was gone. The only thing left was his wedding ring on the nightstand. I sat there, staring at it, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a stab of something like fear. I had pushed him, and he had finally broken. I tried calling him, texting him. He didn't answer. His phone went straight to voicemail. I called his work. They said he was on leave. I tried his parents' house, but they were out of town. The only person I knew to call was his best friend, Liam. Liam was evasive. He said Mason needed space. He said he was with family. I knew he was lying. I knew he was with her. That woman, Grace, I could feel it. I went into a tailspin. My friends told me to give him time, that he'd come back. They told me I had messed up, but that it wasn't the end of the world. But I didn't feel like I had messed up. I felt like I had been betrayed. I had a husband who had been so broken he had to find comfort in someone else. And I was the one who was supposed to be the victim. A month went by. 2 months. I was a wreck. I was going out all the time, trying to distract myself. I was drinking too much. I was sleeping too little. I'd go out with my girlfriends and I'd just sit there, stewing. "He's with some church girl," I'd say. "Some praying grace." My friends would just look at me with pity, but I didn't want pity. I wanted Mason back, or at least, I wanted him to suffer as much as I was suffering. Then came the day I got a text from his lawyer. "Mason would like to discuss the terms of your separation." It was official. He wasn't coming back. And the worst part, the really, truly messed up part, I knew he was happy. I could feel it. I saw a picture of him on Liam's social media. He was smiling. A real smile. Not the tired, sad smile he had been wearing for months. He was with a group of people. And in the corner, I could see a woman with a bright, Grace. She was holding a coffee cup. And she was looking at him with this look that was just full of warmth. That was it. The anger, the resentment. It all bubbled up into this bitter, cold rage. How dare he? How dare he be happy? How dare he move on so quickly? I was still in this mess, and he was out there living his best life, with a woman who had prayed with him. The legal stuff was a nightmare. He was fair, which somehow made it worse. He didn't try to take everything. He just wanted to split everything down the middle. Our home, our savings, everything. The financial independence I had so craved came back to bite me. I was on my own. in an apartment that felt too big and too empty. I had to sell the house we bought together. The one we had painted together. The one where we had planned a future. It was a starter home, but it was ours. And now it was just a house, and I was just the owner. The buyers, a young couple, were so excited. They talked about painting the nursery and planting a garden. I just handed them the keys, a knot in my stomach, and walked away. My life felt like it was unraveling. My friends started to pull away. They'd still text me, but the invites became less frequent. I think they were tired of my constant bitterness. They were tired of hearing about Mason and Grace. They were tired of my misery. I was becoming that person. The person you pity, the person you avoid. One of my friends, a girl named Kayla, finally sat me down. Brielle, you have to let it go. You're holding on to this anger, and it's destroying you. Mason has moved on. He's happy. You have to find your own happiness. I just stared at her. He's happy. He left me. He left me for some woman who prayed with him. He was weak. And now he's with someone who thinks that's a good thing. How am I supposed to be happy about that? She just shook her head, a tired look on her face. He wasn't weak, Brielle. He was just grieving. You couldn't handle it, and you pushed him away. Now he's with someone you can be bitter about it, but it's not going to change anything. And that was the last time I talked to her for a while. I just couldn't handle the truth of what she was saying. It wasn't my fault. It was his. It was Grace's. It was everyone's fault but mine. A year passed. I heard through the grapevine that Mason and Grace were engaged. I heard it from Liam, who I had started talking to again, mostly just for information. He sounded happy for them. She's good for him.
Brielle.
He said, she's exactly what he needed. She helped him through the darkest time of his life. I hung up on him. She was what he needed. What about what I needed? I needed him to be the strong, silent Mason I had always known. The one who didn't cry. The one who didn't fall apart. But he had, and now he had found someone who could handle his weakness. The news hit me like a physical blow. Engaged. It wasn't just a fling. It was real. It was permanent. The last thread of hope, the last delusion I was holding on to, was gone. I started going through the motions. I went to work. I went home, but there was a hollowness inside me that I couldn't fill. I was alone, truly, completely alone. My friends were gone. My husband was gone. The life I had built was gone. Then, about 6 months ago, I was driving home from work in my little car. It was late. The sun was setting, and the sky was a bruised purple and orange. I was just turning onto my street when I saw a car pull out of the house that used to be mine. And I saw them, Mason and Grace. He was smiling, holding a baby carrier. She was laughing, her hair blowing in the wind. And inside the carrier, there was a baby. A newborn. My heart stopped. It was like I had been punched. They had a baby. He had a baby. With her, he had moved on. He had a new life, a new family, a new everything. And it was all built on the ashes of our life. The grief I had dismissed as weakness had led him to a woman who helped him. And that help had led to this, to a new life, to a new baby. I pulled over to the side of the road and just watched them. They were so happy. They were so content. They were so perfect. And I was just a woman in a beat-up car, watching a life that was supposed to be mine, being lived by someone else. I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel regret. I felt this cold, profound bitterness. I felt like I had been cheated. I had been right all along. His grief had made him weak, and that weakness had led him to a woman who had taken everything from me. My husband, my home, my future, and for what? For a baby, for a prayer. I just drove home. I went into my empty apartment. I sat on my couch, the same couch we used to sit on, watching the same shows. But it wasn't the same. Everything was different. Everything was gone. And I was alone, utterly and completely alone. I had gotten what I wanted, my freedom, my own life. But it was a life without him, and without anyone else, just me, in an empty apartment, with a hollow space in my chest that had once been filled with a comfortable, predictable life. And the only person I had to blame was, well, I had no one to blame. Not really. It was all just a series of unfortunate events, a series of mistakes made by everyone but me. I was just the one left to pick up the pieces. And for some reason, the pieces just weren't fitting together anymore.